What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens episode review. Today, guys, we are going to be going over episode 72 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens. I'm excited, as always, to be discussing these episodes with you guys, so without further ado, let's not waste any more time, and let's jump right into it. So, generally speaking, what were my thoughts on episode 72 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens? Well, I thought the episode was okay. I mean, I knew going into this episode was not going to really interest me that much, and it was for the sole reason that this episode seemed like it was just going to be more of a focused episode to let some of the side characters grow, which, don't get me wrong, it's not a bad thing at all. I really do think it's good that they're allowing these side characters to be able to flourish a little bit, especially since they haven't really done that much in the show, especially Bakuro. I mean, like I mentioned in the summary preview analysis, I feel like the only thing this kid has really done the entire show was he dueled against Luke in episode 5, because he was writing bad reports about rush duels, and then when he tried to help save Yuga's laboratory when Caterpillar was trying to destroy it. But other than that, what did the kid really do? So the fact that they're allowing him to kind of flourish a little bit in this episode, I was completely fine with that. But like I said in the summary preview analysis, I thought this character really wasn't that interesting to me because he has not done enough. And going into this episode, it was really hard for me to kind of get with these characters because these characters, I mean, they're all right. I mean, I don't hate the characters at all. I don't think they're bad at all. But because they have not done enough in the show yet, I don't know. I just thought going into this episode, I was not going to really be as into this episode as probably most other people. I probably am a little bit more on the lower side when it comes to this episode. Don't get me wrong, it's not the worst episode of this arc. That goes to episode 68, which is the recap episode. I don't think it's worse than that episode, which if this episode was worse than a recap, I would be very concerned, but it's not a bad episode at all. I mean, like I said, it was just more focused on Lenini's side characters grow, which is completely fine. So, getting into the episode shows with Luke and Bakuro and his group essentially taking a tour around the Goha building because Luke was essentially doing his job of observing what everyone else is doing because Luke's whole corporation literally does nothing other than just observing what everyone else does in the Goha Corporation building. And as they're doing all this, Bakuro and his group giving an interview from Luke, and essentially what ends up happening is they go around the entire Goha Corporation building just to see what everyone is doing at the Goha building. And also, forgot to mention this as well, apparently now Yugioh is a part of the group as well, and along with his group as well. So you have now Luke, Swirly, Yugioh, and his group, and a dog too, because I forgot Yoshio's group also has a dog. So now you have all of these members a part of the Luke division, which good for the division, I guess. I mean, at the beginning it was just Luke and Swirly. So the fact that now you have Yugioh and his entire group, which is just 2 kids and a dog, getting involved with it as well, I mean, the division is growing, so good on the whole Luke division. So after that, they end up going back outside, and they actually run into Hunt, who ends up getting into a little bit of a conversation with Luke and the group about a couple of things. The first thing he brings up is that he was not able to get a hold of fusion, which was very bizarre, especially since it seems like everyone has a fusion at this point. Even Bakuro in the episode mentions that he does have a fusion card, which was a little bit of foreshadowing to the duel that we will get to in a little bit. So there you go. But another thing with that, in regards to that, is because he did not find a fusion card, the group ended up getting into a fight to the point where it seems like Hunt and his group is going to be disbanding, which I was not really expecting that at all. I know a lot of people did speculate that this was a potential thing to happen, but I didn't know if it was going to happen or not, especially since, you know, I wouldn't think they would just disband a group like that out of nowhere, but I guess I'm wrong, because it seems like, you know, they got into a fight and it looks like they're going to be disbanding. So for the people who thought that they were going to do that, I mean, you guys were right. I was wrong. That was my mistake. You know, I can't be right on everything. I mean, you know what? I'm not perfect when it comes to anything in regards to Yu-Gi-Oh, whether or not it's sevens or not. So there you go. So we have the whole situation with Hunt and his group, which was interesting to learn. After they exchange a little bit more of dialogue and Hunt actually asking Luke and the group for a favor, they end up going down to the bottom part of the Goa Corporation building to this abandoned area at Goa Corporation that they don't use anymore, because Hunt apparently had gotten a cent of money down there, because, you know, Hunt's new thing has to revolve around money, and apparently he was able to get that cent underneath the depths of Goa Corporation. So essentially they go down there and they're trying to explore the area to see what Hunt's cent is getting to, and they start to explore a little bit, and then they are able to find this card producing machine, which is not really in the best shape right now. Obviously, it's an older model, and, you know, they start messing with it a little bit. They even create their own cards, one for each of the characters, except for Bakuro. I don't think Bakuro got his own card, but Luke got his own one, Hunt got his own one, Swirly got one as well, Yoshio got one, and also I don't think the other group members as well of Yoshio's group got it, but, you know, the other two members of Bakuro's group actually got their own cards as well, and these cards were insane. Like, they had their own unique attributes, they had their own unique typing, and they had absurd attack and defense point stats. Like, I don't know what was going on with this piece of machinery. Maybe it's because you can go to a certain setting and actually set what the level is going to be and how much attack and defense points it's going to have. That's more than likely what that was all about, and that's how essentially you get these created cards. Obviously, they're not going to be able to use it in a duel, because obviously they have levels on cards and attack point stat lines that wouldn't really work in Rush Duel, or at least I don't think it would, because obviously we know from just Yu-Gi-Oh in general that when it comes to higher levels, you have to attribute a certain amount of monsters in order to summon these monsters. Well, if they're this high of levels, how are you going to be able to summon them? Like, they're now going to just have to make these weird rules to actually use these cards, and obviously they're not going to do that. So essentially these cards are just going to be little nice things that they can just have to put up on the shelf or something like that. Or I guess you can have, like in Hunt's case, where he's wearing a card around his neck, which we'll get to that card in a second, because it has something to do with the end of this episode. Maybe they can just do something like that and keep it as a little bit of a memento when they went down to the underground area to find this piece of machinery. And Hunt makes the decision that it would be a great idea to take this back to the surface and essentially use this machinery to create a whole bunch of cards to make a lot of money, and was essentially trying to get Luke and his division to essentially agree on it. That way they can bring it back up and then they can start producing these cards. But Bakuro tells the group that this is not a good idea and that we should just leave this where it's at and just pretend that we never saw it. And that's not do this whole thing where we're going to just bring it out of the surface and try to make a whole bunch of money off of it. He didn't think that was really a good idea at all, and obviously this started to lead to some conflict between him and Hunt, to the point where in every case in Yu-Gi-Oh, when something needs to get resolved, you do it in a duel. And that's essentially where this entire conflict of the episode, and what the majority of this episode was just them going down to this underground area, finding this piece of machinery that can create these cards. Hunt wants to essentially make a lot of money by creating cards like he was doing with the maximum cards, and essentially be able to get his own copy of Fusion, since obviously he didn't get one like other people were able to. And Bakuro says, no, this is not a good idea, this is a very stupid idea and we shouldn't do it. So obviously they have two sides that are conflicting with each other, and they need to duel it out to see who's actually right. So that's where we get the duel between Bakuro and Hunt. General thoughts on the duel. I thought the duel was okay. I didn't really expect much when it came to this duel. We saw Hunt's maximum again, which was not surprised at all. We saw it in the preview, so I knew that we were going to be seeing this maximum monster in this episode, and like I mentioned earlier, they alluded to the fact that Bakuro was going to be using a fusion, since we know he has a fusion card, and that's exactly what he does. During the third turn, he's able to get out his fusion monster, and with a whole bunch of other combos, he's able to defeat the maximum monster and ultimately defeat Hunt, which honestly, in my opinion, was pretty predictable. In my opinion, I really did not see Hunt winning this duel. I thought it made no sense whatsoever for him to win this duel, so although it was predictable, it was a nice win for Bakuro. I mean, he only dueled one other time, which was that duel against Luke, and he obviously lost. I mean, Luke has beaten every single opponent that there has been in Yu-Gi-Oh! And no, we do not count the Luke Man duel against Yuga, because the Luke Man is his own separate entity. Alright? Alright. So, Bakuro gets his first win of the show. Pretty nice to have. I mean, I'm happy for the character. Does it make me like the character even more? Not really. I mentioned it in the summary preview analysis. Even with this duel, I don't think it's going to do enough to where I think Bakuro is such a great character. Now, do I think his stock went up a little bit? Yeah, I think so, because at least he's starting to try to do a little bit more in the series, because like I mentioned earlier, he hasn't really done much in the show, so to allow Bakuro to take the spotlight in this episode instead of having, Luke do it and have him face off against Hunt, I think is really good, and I think they're going to try to lead towards letting the other side characters as well to get their own time in the spotlight. Your Mensaboros, your Khans, your Yoshio's, all those characters probably, more than likely, will also be getting their own spotlight episodes as well. We know that Khan and Mensaburo are going to because of their fusion monsters, so that's going to be really cool as well to allow these other side characters, to get a little bit more developed, because if I'm going to be honest, I haven't really been interested in a lot of the side characters, Going into this episode, I have not had any interest in Bakuro at all. He's probably the most least interesting character of the entire bunch, but now letting him actually do a little bit more in this episode and let him take the spotlight, I think he's done a little bit better. In fact, I think he's better than Khan now because he's done a little bit more, but I think it's a good thing to allow these other side characters to flourish a little bit, to let them have the spotlight, not just your main characters do it. So I think it's going to be really cool to see potentially the other side characters as well, and for me personally, maybe it gives me the opportunity to grow with these characters a little bit more, because I'm going to be honest, have not really been interested in most of the side characters, but that can change easily. Maybe one of these duels I can get really invested in one of the characters. Unfortunately, Bakuro didn't do it in this episode, but maybe the next duel he participates in, maybe I'll get a little bit more interested in Bakuro to the point where I actually start to like the character a lot. But obviously, we're going to have to wait and see as Sevens continues to go forward, and I think there's a very good chance for this to happen, especially since, you have 5 characters gone now, since, the last arc you can't really do it because they introduced, 6 new characters, Swirly, 4 of the Goha siblings, Yuka, Eugene, Euron, and Euro, and then you also had the Luke Man, which is technically his own separate character, so you had, 7 characters that were introduced, and now that 5 are now gone now, 5 are gone now. I keep getting mixed up on the number of how many left in this arc. It allows a lot of these side characters to have a little bit more spotlight, so it's going to be pretty interesting to see what the other side characters are going to do, and to let these characters have a little bit more character development as well, and get more behind these side characters. But getting off a little bit off topic there, I do apologize for that, but I felt like it was definitely important to kind of bring that whole topic up, but that's a topic for another discussion. What we need to talk about is the rest of this episode, because things get very, very interesting. So, after the duel between Bakuro and Hunt, you have Hunt breaking down, saying that, oh, I wanted to win this duel to make a whole bunch of money so I can have a pool and all this stuff, he's trying to have, your feel bad moment, that you should feel bad for the character, which I kind of don't, if I'm going to be honest. I mean, I understand he's a kid and you can have big dreams, but just work for it. Like, it's not really that hard. Don't try to go the easy way out. You know, you have to work hard if you want to be able to make stuff like this. But obviously he's not trying to do that. You know, he's trying to do the easy way by just using this piece of machinery that he find at a place that he didn't even do. Like, he's not trying to do something himself. He's trying to take someone else's property, essentially, to be able to use it for his own doing. Now, to be fair, he's just using the machinery, and it's still going to be at Gohan Corporation, but I don't know. I just feel like the way he was doing it, I feel like you can do a little bit better, and maybe it can potentially lead to what you want of being able to get all the stuff you want. Maybe not a pool and all that stuff, unless you're like someone that's making like $1 million a year or something like that, but, you know, let the kid dream. But the big thing I want to talk about is in regards to something that happens at the end of this episode, where after Hunt lands on the ground, he ends up knocking the card that was around his neck, and Rook decides to pick it up to give it back to him, and he looks at the card and realizes it's an ID card that says Goha Yuga on it. Goha Yuga was on that ID card, which, first off, how the hell does Hunt not like a picture in his mind that, oh, it says Yuga's name on it? What the hell is all this about? Like, how the hell did he miss this? Did he just was so money hungry to the point where he has this ID card and doesn't even notice it? Or unless I'm just remembering it wrong and maybe he didn't actually have it, but I could have swore to God that he had it around his neck the entire time during the episode. But still, that doesn't solve the question of how the hell you want to know it if that's the case. And if he didn't have it, then why the hell is it on this little, like, you know, neck thing where you can have it around your neck? Like, why was it just down here? I feel like that's really weird that no one was able to find this, which, I guess to be fair, it's an abandoned place, so maybe that actually makes a lot more sense. But I could have swore that Hunt had it around his neck, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Then it was just on the ground out of nowhere. So if I'm wrong on that, just ignore what I say, okay? But at this point, we need to talk about this. So when it comes to the whole Yuga is a sixth Goha sibling thing, this is pretty much confirmed at this point. It is. I mentioned in the last episode that, you know, I didn't want it to be Yuga because it was too predictable because of the opening, and it still makes me angry now looking at it that the opening essentially spoiled this. I understand he was silhouetted out, you couldn't really tell, you know, just right off the bat. I know some people did say Rook, even though I heavily disagreed on that since the very beginning, but at this point, you can't even argue it anymore. Unless they're going to pull some weird bullcrap to where they're going to say, oh, there's just another Yuga running about, or, you know, this is a fake ID card, which, bullcrap. There's no way that this is just a random fake ID card that just says Goha Yuga on it. Like, at this point, it's clear and cut that this is Yuga's ID card when he was a sixth Goha sibling, but got rid of it for some unknown reason. I don't know why the hell he doesn't have it anymore. I honestly do not know how to feel about this. I talked about it in the last episode, and I even just said it right now. My thoughts on the whole thing of Yuga being the sixth Goha sibling. And I still can't grasp it. I'm really hating the fact, not because, I should say because Yuga is the sixth Goha sibling, but the fact that they spoiled it from the opening and then made us waste so much fucking time to where the first arc, you know, we're trying to figure it out, even though essentially we shouldn't have known from the opening. And now we're like 20 episodes into the new arc, and now we're finally getting the confirmation at this point. Like, I feel like we shouldn't have eluded this long, but that's just the way they decided it. And you know what? Maybe they thought people wouldn't have got it right off the bat, even though I just feel like, me personally, I thought it was kind of obvious that that silhouetted character was Yuga, or it was almost an identical look-alike of Yuga. Like, I don't know, maybe they were just banking on that, but I'm still kind of a little bit upset. I kind of wish they didn't show that silhouetted character because, like I mentioned in the past before too, the Luke man was not that obvious when you first looked at him. And even when he had the mask, I didn't think that silhouetted character was the Luke man right off the bat. I had a feeling that it could have, but you know, with the whole claws and stuff, I was like, maybe that's not true. Maybe it's still an actual monster, but when we got the full body design, then it made it more clear that it was going to be the Luke man as one of the silhouetted characters. So I like what they did with that one, but now just looking back at the whole Yugioh silhouetted character from the opening, I just kind of wish they didn't do that. I would have loved if they just had all the Goha siblings, on there, Yuro, Eugene, Yuka, Euron and Yuo on there, and that was it. They didn't have that silhouetted character, or not make it that blatantly obvious. Maybe just have a purple cloud above it, like in a different shape that maybe didn't look like Yuga. That way we couldn't figure it out, just like the Luke man. But that's just not the case, and we now have to look at the fact that Yuga is going to be the sixth Goha sibling. But I need to calm myself a little bit down there, because I've said enough times, I'm a little bit disappointed that, they essentially spoiled it in the opening and then kept it for so long when they should have just revealed it in the last arc, because at that point it was still kind of obvious to some degree. But even though that happened, it still poses a very interesting question that I still think is going to be pretty exciting and pretty interesting to learn going forward. Why did Yuga keep this a secret for so long? Why did the other siblings not even mention it either? That's another aspect to it. Like, why did they keep it a secret as well? Did Yuga tell them to keep it a secret, or what's the case with that? And why did Yuga leave the other siblings? Like, there is so much to this that we still do not know, and I'm very excited to learn why this is the case. Why did Yuga leave the other siblings and not tell anyone? And I cannot wait to learn this in the upcoming episodes, because at this point, there's no denying it at this point. Yuga is the sixth Goha sibling. But with that being said, that's going to be it for this episode review. Hoped you guys enjoyed. Let me know your guys' thoughts on episode 72. Did you like the episode? Did you think the episode was okay? Or did you not really like the episode at all? Let me know your guys' thoughts on, the whole ID card thing that ended up happening in this episode. And, your guys' theories on why you think Yuga hid this from everyone. And why did he leave the Goha siblings. We'll love to know your guys' thoughts on that, as well as the duel between Bakuro and Hunt. Did you like the duel? Did you think it was okay, or did you not really care for it? But with that being said, that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, guys, take care and have yourselves a great rest of your day.